Make sure you call now. That's $59.99. Today's special for these jade collar triangles. They are 50% off. You can see them in silver, in gold, and in rose gold in that 10-inch piece. Call now. Made in the USA. Welcome to the Anarch Movement. A primer. Do you want to live forever? Sure, we all do. But being young forever isn't just partying all night and sleeping all day. In fact, if you aren't careful, being one of the immortal undead can be even more dangerous than being alive. People already know about how deadly the sun can be. Stakes won't kill you, but they'll make conversations difficult. And fire bad. But what else do you need to know about eternity in the world of darkness? Well, as a newly recruited member of the Anarch Movement, you'll need to know some essential basics before you start your exciting career path. I'm your host and surrogate sire, and I'll be your guide to success in the Anarch Movement. Here's the information you need. The Anarch Movement. Why we fight. History class was a drag. All those boring lectures about old farts and powdered wigs, signing documents and attending court. Who needs it? You. That's who. Your dumbass has just been sucked dry and thrust into the oldest ongoing war in history. If you don't know your origins, your supple kindred hide might end up as a duvet in some elder fiend's coffin. So, let's talk a little bit about where we come from and why. For centuries, the natural order of things dictated that the child was the possession of the sire. Get killed, get embraced, get to work. Each of us were pawns in the great jihad of the ancients. It's true. Using the blood, mental and emotional manipulation, or outright violence to force servitude, we did as we were told. We were good little servants, too. The young did all the hard labor while our sires reaped the rewards. Well, this continued unabated for centuries. It wasn't until the 15th century that the youth finally shrugged off the chains of the elders and fought back. If not for the impressive zeal of the Inquisition, you might be polishing your sire's favorite bowling shoes instead of watching this. Made in the USA. That's right. The faceless elders were more than happy to toss their property, that's you and me, pal, into the fire of the Inquisition and watch us roast while they continued to stalk the night like the Vlad stereotypes they are. Well, that's not very nice. No, it's not. It's why clans like the Bruja and the Assamites started the revolution. And, just like you, they believed we deserve an equal stake in our own fate. Eventually, the growing resistance was joined by the youth movements of the Lasombra and the Zemis, who were also fighting for independence from their oppressive elders. And you know what? The revolution spread all across Europe. Bruja Tyler is said to have destroyed the powerful Ventrue elder, Hardestat, in his big, bad castle. The Blue Bloods, obviously, disagree. Fact or fallacy, the Anarchs were able to strike some serious blows to the elders. The Lasombra and the Zemis didn't waste any time either. Those guys went nuts and destroyed their clan founders through the act of diablerie. Basically, eating their souls. Speaking of eating, let's take a 15-minute break for some refreshments. After all the chaos, fighting, and death, the Anarchs were, air quote, offered a seat at the table at the Convention of Thorns. This little get-together/picnic in the park was an attempt by the elite to end the hostilities between the ruling class and their subjugated childer. Many of the clans, including the Bruja, saw little choice but to return to the fold. The promise of a united community of kindred made sense to a lot of us, and existing as outlaws hunted by the unified front of the elders seemed like a much worse option. The treaty at the Convention of Thorns officially brought the Anarchs, a recognized separate entity, into the fold of the Camarilla. They were given free from punishment due to the revolt. Unless, you did some truly heinous shit. In exchange, the Anarchs were to cease further warfare against members of the Camarilla. The bulk of the Zemis and Lasombra found this treaty to be total bullshit, and took their toys and went home to form the Sabbat. Cool. Not all of us were prepared to fight against the status quo for eternity, but they were. Many Anarchs saw the convention to be a massive failure, and in many ways, it was. The elders and justicars of the Camarilla paid the convention lip service, while princes used the Anarchs as scapegoats for all the horrible crap happening in their domains. As Anarchs, we were required to uphold the Masquerade, And many princes would punish anarchs who didn't follow other traditions as well. It didn't really matter, though. Who are we going to complain to?
Call now to speak to one of our specialized sales agents to tell you more about
Anarchs were required to declare their membership in the subsect. Anyone who failed to would be treated as an enemy of the Camarilla.
So there's clearly a catch-22 there. But by the 20th century, it didn't even matter much. This meant more of the same old abuse, more of the same old aggression, and of course more of us being used for cannon fodder. Most elders just treated all young kindred as if they were anarchs, regardless of their political alignment. Screw up and question authority? Well, now you're an anarch aggressor. Or you're an anarch spy. Either way, you're headed for the great ashtray in the sky.
the Second Anarch Revolt.
In 1944, renowned anarch of the people, Jeremy McNeil, took a swift ass-whipping at the hands of the Camarilla Prince, Don Sebastian. The Second Anarch Revolt swept across California, leaving the Camarilla establishment on its head. Prince and elders of LA were hunted down and destroyed in a coordinated series of guerrilla attacks. Within months, the Anarch Movement spread to Northern California and south into Mexico. The entire swath of anarch-controlled domains was now known as the Anarch Free States. For the next half-century, this perfect state remained pretty damn tumultuous. Sadly, the big dream of decentralized leadership and freedom from kindred politics has more or less turned into tribal warfare. To make matters worse, Los Angeles lost its big baron, Jeremy McNeil, in the late 90s. A treacherous vampire faction called the New Promise Mandarinate staged brutal attacks against the movement and rapidly took over the Free States. This eastern sect was then ousted by the Camarilla, seeking to reclaim the territory. Then, the Sabbat moved in, and the whole damn neighborhood went to pot. Tonight, the Anarch Movement has reclaimed much of LA after the Camarilla and the Sabbat apparently sighed a collective fuck it and moved on. In fact, the movement has been officially expelled from the Camarilla after the Conclave of Prague in 2008. You know, the one where things got really real? Do you remember how I mentioned that asshat Hardestat earlier? You know, the one Tyler supposedly killed? Well, it turns out he wasn't officially dead, and he managed to spawn a few asshole childer over the years. No worries, though. Theo Bell, Camarilla Archon and Pitbull, killed Hardestat and his child, Jan Peterzoon. Seems like old Boomstick Bell finally said enough is enough. And I can't blame the guy either. Theo Bell used to be the Cam errand boy, and he served those venture jagoffs for years. These moments of revolution in the Great Jihad hardly represent all of the moments we've stood to overthrow our oppressors. Places like Paris, Berlin, the Soviet Union, and...
Tonight's gonna be a great show.
Absolutely, Jane. Tonight's going to be a great award show.
Clans in the Anarch Movement.
But here's the real question. What clans tend to run in anarch circles? Well, for lack of a better answer, pretty much all of them do. I mean, yeah, most of us are Bruja or Caitiff, but there's no clan out there that doesn't produce angry, disaffected childer. Granted, I've never met a Giovanni or a Zemis Anarch, but that doesn't mean they're out there. I mean, look, clan identity is kind of a sore subject for some anarchs, and yeah, it should be. For some of us, clan identity is a mark of pride, showing outsiders the heritage and ancestry that we're proud of, or proud of revolting against. For others, clan identity just fosters mistrust and hatred that has nothing to do with us as individuals. So hey, be the best anarch you can be and shed your clan identity.
That stretch. Let's feel that burn.
The Anarch Movement has slowly morphed into the fundamentals of a sect, if in theory, and not in practice. After Anarch Revolt number 2, certain consistencies began to emerge within the Free States. Not that any anarch worth their salt would admit to formal organization within the movement. Positions of power, unofficial or otherwise, do rise from the chaos. Anarchs mingle and coalesce into all kinds of different groups based on any number of reasons. Here's a few of them. Gangs. Much like mortal street gangs, anarchs often hook up based on geographic, socioeconomic, and other common connections. Bikers, street gangs, digital Draculas, and other similar clots create their own unique cultures, symbols, and languages. Communes. Kindred equality typically boils down to feeding rights and non-violence. Kindred communes dispense with the traditions of domain and individual power consolidation in favor of rule by committee. Most of the time, these communes assemble intentionally around a specific set of beliefs, a religion, or philosophy, which helps keep these communes functional and unified. Free states. This is a generic catch-all term and a form of governance. A free state is some sort of representative democratic system. A revolutionary council, parliament, or legislative body of elected representatives create and enforce rules and regulations of a domain. Some free states even operate via the presidential model, with strict separation of powers and branches. Other free states are simply a collection of smaller domains ruling through committee. Cool. So how is democracy revolutionary? Well, why don't you go ask Lord Gromish, the 800-year-old Ventru, if he thinks you deserve a vote and who feeds by the docks.
Baronies.
If you take a left turn at Albuquerque, just past the Camarilla domain, you'll end up at the front door of a barony. Lots of anarchs disregard baronies as just baby satellite domains of the Camarilla, just probably not while they're talking to the baron.
Cells.
Different than disorganized or violent gangs of the movement, cells tend to assemble under the auspice of a paramilitary agenda or political ideology. These cells practice discipline and informal control, like the underground mortal political organizations of the 20th century.
Cults.
The whacked-out rise of religion and kindred culture over the last 20 years, cults have taken over in many territories and domains. Cities like Indianapolis are home to theocratic governments, controlled by the ministry, the Setites. Yeah, that's the Church of Set. I don't know. Other cults like the Church of Cain have taken over in recent...
You don't even know the half of it. Authority in the Anarch Movement. So, who runs Bartertown? Here are some common roles or titles you'll encounter as you travel in Anarch circles.
Baron. If the prince is the de facto boss of a Camarilla city, the baron tends to be the closest equivalent to that title. In fact, so-called baronies are certainly Camarilla adjacent in their design. However, there are some very distinct differences between the two. First, the baron tends to be less of an open dictator. There are usually way less asses to kiss in a barony and fewer kindred for whom you must fetch and step. Second, many barons may run a city, sometimes working with or against each other. The eldest, most respected, or most influential anarchs of the area are likely to be barons.
Emissary.
A mostly unofficial title, the emissary is a traveling agent of an anarch free state, baron, gang, or any other greater organization sent to rep that group to another organization.
Sweeper.
If you want to know who the most disliked lick in a barony is, just look for the sweeper. It's the job of the sweeper to know what's going on in the area and to take care of it in the literal sense. If you've ever heard of the Camarilla Scourge, this is the closest equivalent to that role in the movement.
Sales agents to tell you more about your food.
The Anarch Movement is a loose association of kindred, hastily glued together by the urge for freedom. This idea of freedom has many different meanings to many different kindred. This training material cannot replace experience in time. The moment you think you know the score, the damn game changes. Thanks for watching. Remember, together we have the power to take back the night. I've been your surrogate sire, and this is a Blood Spot production, brought to you by RFK. Come back soon. My ass hurts. Gang or any other great gangs.